What's good, ladies and gentlemen? You're listening to another episode of Talking Sports with Manny. I know it's been a while since I've been on, but I promise to bring you guys more consistency to the podcast. I've been working on a lot of live shows for the other pod, but I've not forgot about you guys. So I guess I'll just do more audio versions of this pod and more live versions of the other pod. So man, we got a great episode lined up for you guys today. We're going to talk the NBA. We're going to talk some fantasy basketball. I know it's a whole new thing that I'm doing, fantasy basketball. I know that it'll never be as big as fantasy football, but got some great tips for you guys. We're going to talk some NFL. We're going to talk some NFL draft. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. Let's get it. So guys, man, the biggest news today so far in the sports world is that Bennard has been released from the Cincinnati Bengals. Bennard is a guy that whenever Joe Mixon is out, he comes in and gives you solid PPR stats. I love Bennard. I think that he latches on with a team that can use him to his skill set. He's a good receiver and a decent running back out of the backfield. I would love to see him at a place like Tampa Bay or even a place like Green Bay. I think Green Bay will be perfect, being that Aaron Jones is gone. You can have Bennard as that guy who can come in and get some of that receiving work for the Green Bay backfield. Now, the whole big thing is that Joe Mixon stock is up and blase. Look, I am still down on Joe Mixon. I think that Joe Mixon is a good running back, but he's a guy that I can't trust. I can't trust Joe Mixon, and I think that Joe Mixon is on the spiral down. He's going downwards, and I'm not messing with Joe Mixon. Everybody right now is just hyping everything up because Bennard is gone. I think it makes no difference. To be honest, I think that the Cincinnati Bengals draft a top running back this year. If not a top running back, a very good backup. And that guy is going to be the guy to own in the Cincinnati Bengals backfield. Especially in Dynasty. Grab that guy. I don't know how many more years Joe Mixon has left in the tank, but I'm down on Joe Mixon. Even though that Joe Burrow and that offense is going to be very, very good, beware of Joe Mixon. So that's my take on the whole Joe Mixon ordeal. I think the Cincinnati Bengals draft a running back, and that running back will be the running back to be owned on this Bengals backfield. So, hey, hit me up on Twitter. Hold me to it. Call me out if I'm wrong, but also call me out if I'm right. So, guys, correction. I said that Aaron Jones left Green Bay. I was wrong. I meant Jamal Williams. So, sorry about that. Jamal Williams left Green Bay. So, that gives another opportunity to another back because A.J. Dillon is going to be more so of a pounded running back instead of a receiving running back. Aaron Jones can do a lot of the receiving work, but it'll be nice to bring in another third down type running back to help with that skill set. Now, let's move on to the Los Angeles Clippers. They have signed DeMarcus Cousins. He's come in. He's had his first debut game. He looked pretty good. He was real solid. And they have Rajon Rondo. So these are two guys that they, I guess, took from the Laker pool. These are two guys that guys like Skip Bayless was making fun of when the Lakers first signed those two guys. Now, it's not because I'm a Lakers fan, but I'm just saying, I think DeMarcus Cousins is going to give them a punch. He's on a 10-day contract, but I think they probably end up signing him for the rest of the season. That's just my opinion. I think he gives them exactly what they're looking for out of the center spot with Serge Ibaka being out. And Zubac, he can't play a full 48-minute game, so those minutes have to go elsewhere. And they're really thin in the front court because their power forwards really can't play center. Like Patrick Patterson, he's more of a shooting power forward than a, backup center. So DeMarcus Cousins, perfect fit. Rajon Rondo, he's going to come in there and do some work for these guys. They need a play-making point guard, and that's what he is. Patrick Beverley's more so of a defender, combo guard. He really doesn't have a position. He's just a defender. And I've always said the Clippers need a center and they need a playmaking point guard. And they addressed both issues. Now, we'll see whether this helps them get out of the West this year. I don't know. We'll see if the Clippers even get out the first round, because there's a possibility that they can play the Los Angeles Lakers, who have looked pretty good this year prior to the injury. But now with the injury, it's created opportunities for all these different guys to perform. Last night, the Los Angeles Lakers played the Raptors. And boy, did the Lakers come out blazing that game. These guys were not missing shots. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, you had non-shooters out here making shots. So when the Lakers shoot anywhere between 35 to 37% from three, they're really hard to beat, especially when they have everybody back and everybody's healthy. So a little bit about the Lakers, man, what they did last night. They shot 43s and they made 18 of them. That's 45% from three. If the Lakers shoot 40% or higher, they are nearly impossible to beat. The only guy that messed up the Lakers' shooting percentage yesterday was Kyle Kuzma, who shot 2 for 11. Morris went 3 for 8, 40%, which is good. Gasol 1 for 3. Schroeder 2 for 2. KCP 2 for 2. Matthews 2 for 6. So it's like the guys that shoot the ball well, for the most part, didn't shoot the ball well. It's crazy. Caruso and THT were both 3 for 4 from three. So, I mean, that's amazing. 45%. You can't beat it there. It was just balanced scoring from the Lakers bunch. Everybody who played in the game, for the most part, I mean, they had like most of the guys scored 8 points or more. You know, Morris was 15 points, Kuzma with 8, which is one of their biggest scorers with, you know, everybody out. And then Montrezl Harrell ended up being ejected because he got into it with OG Anunoby. So, I mean, that's just nuts, man. Gasol had 13 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks. Lakers fans need to give Gasol some love because he performed right here. Schroeder had 12. KCP had 13. Devontae Cacok, who came in for Montrezl Harrell, had a great game. 10 points, 8 rebounds. Wesley Matthews, 9 points. Caruso with a big 13 points, THT with 17. So just all around, look, THT led the Lakers in scoring off the bench. It's just crazy. It's crazy. So they needed this win. It was a desperation win that they needed to kind of stay. They're trying to stay in that top 6. When you stay in that top 6, you get to avoid the play-in game. So we don't know when LeBron is coming back. We don't know when AD is coming back. We don't know when Andre Drummond is coming back. So the Lakers are going to have some serious firepower on the way back. But so far, so good. I've always said, if they win 4 out of 10 games, for every 10 games, if they win 4, they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. The goal is to get into the playoffs. Then once you get into the playoffs, you worry about everything else, because this particular year, home court advantage does not really matter. Whether you have fans or not doesn't really matter. It's about getting to the playoffs and having the right matchups. So we'll see what happens there. Since we're still talking NBA, here's how the NBA standings look right now for the Western Conference. You got the Utah Jazz at 38-12. Right now, they're the first seed and deserving to have that first seed because they've had it for most of the year when they stole it from the Lakers, and they've kind of been hot. They've kind of been hot in the last 10 games. They've won 9 of 10. They're hot right now, so they deserve it. They lost the last game. I forgot who they lost to, but Utah, you know, they look good, but I still don't think they're the best team in the West. That's just my opinion. Then you have the Phoenix Suns at 35-14 at number 2. They're also hot. 9 out of the last 10 games they've won. So you have the Clippers, who won last night to elevate them up to the 3 seed. They're sitting there at 34-18. You got Denver Nuggets at 32-18. And then you have the Lakers at 32-19. They're hanging on. They got a tough schedule coming up. We'll see what happens. Lakers are 4-6 in their last 10 games. So they've won 4 out of the last 10. Just like I said. They got to win 4 out of 10. Every 10 games, you got to win 4 to kind of stay afloat. That's going to be what the new normal is for the Lakers. If they can get to 5-5, then that's excellent. But I have them pegged at 4 out of 10. You got the Portland Trailblazers with Damian Lillard just balling out of control. You got CJ McCullough out there balling out of control. And then they added Norman Powell, who I didn't understand the move at first, but I mean, he had some big points yesterday and they still lost to the Clippers, but Norman Powell is definitely going to help them score, but I don't know if he really helps them to defend. He's a decent defender, not the best, but decent. They're sitting in the sixth spot at 30-20. You have the Dallas Mavericks at 28-21. Then you have the Memphis Grizzlies at 25-23 to round out the Western Conference. In the Eastern Conference, you have the Philadelphia 76ers sitting first place. They deserve it. They've been the most consistent team in the East all season. It doesn't matter who's in the lineup. They just continue to win. You have Joel Embiid, legitimate MVP candidate. He's back. The Sixers are hot. They have the defenders, and they have the shooters for a deep playoff run. And number two, you have the Brooklyn Nets, another consistent team this year. I mean, their big three have only played like 7 total games. Kevin Durant comes back tonight. James Harden is out, for like at least like the next 10 days. So, I mean, they were just playing musical chairs. Kyrie was out and then he was back, then he was gone. So Kevin Durant is back, which is the biggest news for the Nets. I mean, with Kevin Durant and whoever, they can win. Kevin Durant is the biggest piece they need to win it all. So they're sitting in at number 2 at 35-16. You got the Milwaukee Bucks, who are now up and coming at 32-18. Big loss last night to the Golden State Warriors. It's crazy. It came down to right to the last shot, and the Golden State Warriors were able to pull that off. The Bucks needed that win to stay within the top 2, but I mean, there's still a scenario where the Bucks might end up being the number 1 seed. But like I said, seeding doesn't really matter. It's just all about making the playoffs and having the correct matchup to have a deep playoff run. Now, number 4, you have the Atlanta Hawks. They've been hot ever since they got that new coach. Ever since they fired their coach and made McMillan the head coach, they've been pretty good. They're sitting at number 4 right now at 27-24. You have the Charlotte Hornets at number 5 at 25-24 record. Even losing LaMelo Ball, they've just found a way to stay afloat. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. You have the Miami Heat coming in at number 6, 26-25 record. Miami's just so inconsistent. They're up and down. You have the Knicks at number 7 at 25-26. You have the Boston Celtics at 25-26. Now, if the Boston Celtics are playing the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round, it's not going to be easy for Philly. Boston's still a good team. Even though they've been consistent, I don't think that they address their needs in the draft market or the buyout market. They still need extra depth and extra guys who can come in and play that center position. I felt like they should have gone after DeMarcus Cousins, but they didn't, and now they're here. You trade for Evan Fournier. What is he going to do? You already have enough guards and wings. What are you doing? You need big man. You need a power forward in the center, but yet you continue to have all these guards. So I don't know what's going on there. The play-in game is going to be pretty good. Right now it's looking like the Indiana Pacers and the Chicago Bulls are going to be available for that play-in game, but do not count out a team like Toronto or even the Washington Wizards. I don't know what's going on with the Wizards. They have so much talent, but yet they're just so bad. With all the moves that happen, you have the Bulls getting Nikolai Vucevic. You have the Orlando Magic trading away Aaron Gordon as well. Aaron Gordon in Denver. So you have all these different moving parts, all these different moving pieces. So playoffs is right around the corner. I think playoffs starts next month, believe it or not. So, I mean, the NBA season is coming to an end. We just want to see what happens to AD, what happens to LeBron, what happens to KD. Does he sustain consistency and play out the rest of the season? Because now it's crunch time. Now it's time to start building chemistry for the playoffs. So I'm excited for that. And it's going to be a good one. All right, y'all. So let's talk some baseball. The Atlanta Braves have acquired Orlando Arcia in trade with the Milwaukee Brewers. But a trade that happened yesterday that I'm so eager to talk about is the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees have acquired veteran infielder Rougned Odor. It's spelled Odor, Odor, but it's pronounced Odor. But either way, he's 27 years old. He had a down year last season, with the shortened season, with the COVID season. Odor is a very good player, very, very good player. And in the trade, the Texans had to absorb a lot of that contract, a lot of that money hit, that cap hit. So they're going to be paying a lot of that. But the Yankees are still responsible for the remaining contract for Odor. If you want to look at what he's done in the last 5 years, let's start with 2016. Let's look at the homers. That year, he had 33 homers. He had 30 homers the next year. He had 18 the next year. And then he had 30. So, from 2016 to 2019, he's had 30 or more homers 3 out of the 4 seasons. Last year, with a shortened season, he had 10 homers, but his batting has been bad. He batted 16. He batted .16 last year. The year before that, .20, then .25, then .20. So he's never really been a big slugger guy. But he's going to hit some home runs. So great trade overall for the New York Yankees. Let's switch gears to the NFL for a second. So, outside of Giovanni Bernard and the whole Joe Mixon ordeal, the Washington football team has hired the first Latina programs coordinator. So shout out to the football team. They're signing all kinds of minorities and giving people opportunities. Great stuff right there. Carlos Dunlap, man, he was talking about, he spoke to Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson told him that he's here to stay in Seattle. That's not news. That trade to the Chicago Bears that people were hearing about, I think it was more so Seattle trying to see what the value is for Russell Wilson. And I hear that the Bears were able to offer 3 first-round picks and 2 really nice defensive starters. I heard that Khalil Mack was in the deal. It was rumored. I don't know if it was true. But, after all that didn't happen, why would you trade Russell Wilson? You would rather fire Pete Carroll before you trade Russell Wilson. So all that was bogus to me. What that tells me is that, it was some friction between the coach and quarterback. Russell Wilson wants to throw the ball. The coach wants to run the ball. They have a new offensive coordinator, and it seems like he wants to run the ball. So we're going to see what happens after this season. But Russell Wilson is going to be a Seattle Seahawk this season. And then Carlos Dunlap said that is the only reason why he decided to come back to the Seattle Seahawks. So this is news, but it's not news at the same time. So the Atlanta Falcons are interested in trading out of number 4. So there are a lot of teams like Denver, like New England. You have the Washington football team. These 3 teams are hungry for quarterbacks. There's other teams that are hungry for quarterbacks. You might see a team like the New Orleans Saints, say, hey, we're looking for our franchise quarterback. So I think the way that the draft is going to go is going to be Lawrence, obviously, number 1, Zach Wilson, number 2. They just traded Sam Darnold to the Panthers, so they're going Zach Wilson at number 2, and then at number 3, I think it's going to be Justin Fields. Now, there's been rumors saying that 49ers, they want to keep Jimmy Garoppolo, and then they also want to have a rookie. So with that big trade where they traded 2 first-round picks just to move up into the top 3, they're getting a quarterback. You don't move up, to number 3 or top 3 to draft a Kyle Pitts. So forget all that Kyle Pitts to San Francisco ordeal. So it's going to be either Lance or Fields. And I think they go Fields. That's just my opinion. I think Fields fits what they like to do. But I've been hearing reports that Mac Jones is the perfect fit for San Francisco. Well, I say this. Why would you trade all those picks to move up for Mac Jones? Mac Jones could have fell to the perfect spot, but I guess they just wanted to just secure their position in getting a quarterback. I think there's maybe 3 guys that they like, and they feel like, you know what? Any of those 3 guys will be available at number 3, which is why they trade up. Now, if they do take Mac Jones number 3 overall, it's going to be crazy. You're going to have San Francisco fans that are going to be pissed off. I think that Mac Jones is going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. But it just all depends on the system, the team, the weapons, the scheme, so many different variables. Now, with all that being said, if Mac Jones goes number 3, That phone call is going to be buzzing for the Falcons. If Fields is available at 4, you're going to see tons and tons of phone calls. If Trey Lance is there at 4, tons and tons of phone calls. So the draft really starts at pick number 4. And it all depends on what the San Francisco 49ers do at pick number 3. I'm telling you guys right now, if it's Mac Jones, it's going to be a riot. I'm going to go live on the Talking Sports with Manny page on YouTube for my reaction. I'm telling you right now, my reaction is going to be crazy. I'm going to go live for several picks. This is going to be very, very interesting. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, the draft is going to be awesome. There's some pretty good running backs that I'm trying to see where they go. ETN, does he go to a team like Buffalo? Does he go to a team like even like a team like New England? They need a running back. Do they trade out of the top 15 to go ahead and grab a running back? Like I said, there's going to be some pretty good running backs. You got Chuba Hubbard out there. You got the 2 guys from North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? Carter and Williams. They're nice. You got ETN, you got Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris is going to be the best running back in this draft. The guy is a stud, man. He's a stud. And then wide receivers is just so deep, from guys like the Alabama guys, Waddle and Smith, to guys like Bateman and Rondell Moore, Terrence Marshall. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And even in the later in the later parts of the draft, where you can get guys like man, it's so many names that I can't even quote one right now. It's just so many names. So the draft is going to be deep. Of course, you got Kyle Pitts, who everybody is saying that the Falcons should draft it for. The Falcons can still trade down and still stay in the top 10 and still get a Kyle Pitts. They can still get a Micah Parsons. They can still get a Patrick Surtain. There's so many guys. So many options, man. You got J.C. Horn. You got so many corners. Not so many corners, but you got on the top end, in the top 19, top 20 of this draft, there's talent to be had. If you're in the top 25, matter of fact, in the top 30, the first round is just so rich and just full with talent. You got to take the best available, but you're going to have guys in this draft in the first round drafting for need, and it's going to force so much talent to fall. So much talent to slip. So it's going to be exciting. Can't wait for the draft. It's coming up. It's coming up in a few days. In a few days before the end of this month, we'll be talking draft, and some more draft. All right, guys, so this is the last segment of the podcast. This is the fantasy basketball segment of the podcast. I've been playing some fantasy basketball, and it's been fun. Usually, I kind of shy away from it. I kind of say, you know what? I don't feel like playing fantasy basketball this year, but somehow I ended up on 7 teams this year, even though I said I'm not going to play. One of my teams, I have Trae Young, Marcus Smart, Norman Powell. So Lord Don't Lose, find him on Twitter, Lawrence Jackson, great guy, Lawrence Jackson Jr., great guy, invited me to a league, and I just kind of wanted to come out here and just show my expertise, show how I get down on some fantasy basketball. So was able to find guys like Norman Powell, Jakob Podol from the Spurs. Very, very good center. He puts up points. And then this is my first year playing in a points league. Is a lot different from the categories. 7 categories, best out of, or was it 9 categories, best out of 9, wins and things of that nature. So I've done that for years, and this is my first time playing points. And then I'm playing in a keeper league. I'm also playing in a dynasty league, and then 2 redrafts. So it's definitely been fun. I'm playing on 4 different platforms. I'm playing on ESPN, playing on Fantrax, playing on Yahoo, and as well as Sleeper. Sleeper is the worst. So if you're going to play fantasy basketball, do not play on Sleeper, because you get to choose one game for the entire week. So you got to make sure you choose right. And then when injuries happens and they skip games, and then you got to, find somebody in the waiver wire. So yeah, I do not recommend playing basketball on Sleeper. But let's just go ahead and dive into some players that have been amazing this season. Moses Brown. If you guys remember who Moses Brown is, he was that guy that played for UCLA. He had his head down, and then the player put his head up. He became a meme. He became a sensation all over social media. That's Moses Brown. Moses Brown came into the league, a GLeague route, two-way contract route, and now he got a real contract with the OKC Thunder, and he is balling out of control. You have guys like Paul George out there, who's having a phenomenal year. You have the elites of the elites. See, the elites of the elites are guys like Steph Curry, Trae Young, Paul George, Brandon Ingram. He's almost in that class of the elites of elites. These are guys that you can count on to give you 40 to 50 points based off of your scoring. Then you have guys like Harrison Barnes, who's solid. Nobody really cares about. You can always buy those guys cheap. I know in a lot of leagues right now, the trade deadline is over, right? But if you are in a dynasty league that has extended the trade deadline, or if you're like in a year-round trading league, get you a guy like Harrison Barnes. There's a possibility that he gets traded and it has more value. He's a guy that's good for 17 and like 9. That's usually like what he gets me daily. You know, right now he's averaging 15 points and 6 rebounds, but most times he gets you 17 and 9. Another guy that you should buy in Dynasty or Keeper is Norman Powell. I understand he had more value in Toronto. You know, he was averaging 19 points this year, 3 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 1.2 steals. He's a scorer. He can get some steals. He has tons of value. He's in Portland right now, which hurts his value for the most part. You know, since he's been in Portland, hasn't really done well. I think he's at like 13, 14, 12, 15. And yesterday he blew up for 32. He made people remember, hey, I'm still good. I'm still a very good player. He is going to find a new team this summer. He's a candidate. He's a player that you want to trade this summer. Okay. And if you trade for him this summer, or trade him this summer, you're going to get the most value, especially if he goes to a sorry team. He's going to sign a deal. And I guarantee you that the Portland Trailblazers are not going to be able to match that offer. So he's going to sign a deal, maybe with a sorry team, and be the main guy. And you're going to see him put up some Zach LaVine type numbers. I'm telling you right now, you're going to see Norman Powell have that growth. He's going to have that growth to where he can lead a team. You know, and the great thing about him in fantasy is that he's slotted in as a shooting guard, small forward. He's really a 6'3" shooting guard, but he can play some 3 because of his toughness, and who knows if he becomes a better defensive player, getting you some more steals and some more blocks. Chris Boucher, great player, solid. You want to grab him. I think he has more of a role next year. He might end up as the starting center for the Toronto Raptors, but they really love him off the bench. As of right now, he's giving you 13 points, 6 rebounds. And then he has those explosion games where he gets you like 30 and 10, 30 and 12. He can shoot the 3. He can block shots. So he's definitely an asset to have. He's giving you 1.9 blocks, almost 2 blocks coming off the bench. That's a guy that you want to have. A couple young players that are up and coming. Chuma Okeke. Chuma Okeke is a great player from Auburn. He's been hurt, but this year he's healthy. The last 4 games, 18 points, 8 points, 16 points, 19 points. And he gets you rebounds, 4, 10, 5, 7. He gets you rebounds, and he gets you assists. He does a little bit of everything. He gets you steals. He gets you blocks. This is a guy that you can buy low. And if you're in Dynasty, you want to sit on him and see where he grows to, what he grows to be, because Wendell Carter's out there in Orlando. And you know, some young players have to emerge. In fantasy, it's all about volume. He's going to get that volume. Derek White is the next player. Derek White is up and coming. You know what I'm saying? Last 4 games, 18 points, 29 points, 18, 13. He's always been a scorer. He's been a guy that can score the ball. Popovich loves this guy. And he's averaging 14 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. But in the last 7 days, he's averaging 19, 3 and 3. Okay, so the Spurs have a lot of these guys, a lot of these players. They're probably not going to be able to keep all of them. Derek White and DeJounte Murray are their guards. But then you have guys like Keldon Johnson and all these different guys, Lonnie Walker, all these different small forward slash shooting guard slash guards. They just guards, you know what I'm saying? You can put them at the point guard position, but they don't really have a playmaking point guard. But Derek White is a guy to buy now. He's probably cheap. If you can't get him now, then you want to think about drafting him next year in redraft. He's going to put up some major numbers for you. Kyle Kuzma does have some value. He has improved all around. So he's still young. Last 5 games, he's gotten 21-11, 16-7, 30-5. Last 2 games have been bad with 6 and 8 points, respectively. But when he's hot, he's hot. And with AD being out, he's definitely a piece to have right now. But if you do have Kyle Kuzma, it might be time to sell because I think AD is close to being back. Maybe within the next 5 to 10 days, AD might be back in the NBA. That's just my opinion. OG Anunoby, he's more of a defender than a scorer. But let's look at the last 5 games. 19 points, 20 points, 21 points, 14 points. He's capable of scoring some points. So OG Anunoby should be a guy that you should target. I'm going to be doing more and more fantasy basketball segments. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Until next time, you're listening to Talking Sports with Manny. Let's get it.